2 days ago, Russia started one of the biggest battles of this Russo-Ukrainian war. Ever since the start of the war, we have not seen 200 Russian armor pieces committed into one single area, moving in a convoy. This is what is happening in Adiivka. This is Adiivka, almost surrounded for the last year, but now Russians have commenced an attack from two sides to surround it completely. That is their goal, to surround and then to starve out the Ukrainian contingent. In this video we'll see how the battle is going, because we have extensive drone footage of this assault. There are losses on both sides. I have to say this as a disclaimer. We have visually confirmed Ukrainian striker armor personnel carrier losses. We have visually confirmed Russian armor losses. And the Russian personnel losses of the past 24 hours are 990 knocked out cold. This is one of the highest, if not the highest number of the entire war. We'll go through all of it. But now another news. Russian patrol vessel from the Black Sea Fleet stationed in Sevastopol, Pavel Derzhavin, reportedly has blown up. And how it happened, it's insane. It will blow your mind. Do you have your popcorn? It reportedly sailed over a Russian sea mine. Yes, Russians do lay a lot of sea mines and they don't really map them that properly. I mean, they should, or even if they do, they sometimes in the military they lack digitalized versions of this information. For example, in any NATO army, this kind of minefields are mapped and digitally sent everywhere. Every kind of unit has an idea where the minefields are. In Russia, they still use paper a lot. So it is not uncommon for a Russian Black Sea ship sailing in waters that are mined and the ship doesn't know that these waters are mined. So this is how it could have happened. Pavel Derzhavin is a class Modern Project 22160, and if you want more information about this marvelous explosion, go to Suicidal's channel. He makes amazing videos about such stuff. I read all of the commentary about such news and I love how one of you guys put it. Listen to this. It appears that Pavel Derzhavin has metamorphosed itself into the Pavel Dersunken. Please note the below pictures does not represent to be the Dersunken, but the flagship Moskva, also acting as a revert coral reef museum. I love you guys' humor, it's amazing, and I'll keep it coming towards you. This, my friends, is Adiivka, the settlement which is almost surrounded for the last year, and Russians decided, okay, we gotta change this situation. We will surround this settlement right now, two-pronged attack with 200 armor pieces, we'll do it. Hurrah! What is the outcome of this? Well, the battles are still ongoing. On the defender side, doing the heavy lifting is the 53rd Mechanized Brigade and 116th Territorial Defense Brigade. Why do I name only these two, although there are many more, is because most of the drone footage and confirmed kills come from these two brigades. See, the 53rd Brigade is stationed here, and to the southwest of it is Pervomayorsk, and you can see this highway coming from the Russian occupied side to Pervomayorsk. This road right here was filled with a huge Russian armored convoy yesterday. This is the road. Let's start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18. And you can see the first ones already knocked out cold, and these ones are moving. Now, this is 500 meters from the front line, perhaps one click. And I only took a snippet of this drone video. I can only describe to you what happened to this entire convoy in this drone video. Well, from these 18 vehicles, 4 of them already knocked out cold, and the rest 14 that are left, 10 of them in this drone footage got knocked out cold. And this was only one video. We're talking over 200 armor pieces coming from the Russian side. So this is the biggest, most grand scale attack Russia has commenced with their armored vehicles into one single area. They really intend to surround Adiivka. But Ukrainian defensive positions, 53rd Mechanized Brigade was using kamikaze drones and Stugna positions very well fortified and hidden. They were able to hit most of the Russian armor with Stugna missiles, and they're confirmed with drone footage, which I unfortunately cannot share. I'm sorry, guys. Here, my friends, we have the speaker of the Ukrainian General Staff taking the situation, reporting to us what is the Russian attack to Adiivka, where are they attacking from, how strong is it? Let's watch it. It's very hot in the city. Starting, of course, well, everyone has seen it since yesterday. Telegram channels are full of news from Adiivka. All media resources are full of news from Adiivka. There is no exaggeration. It is really very hot there. Yesterday, perhaps in my personal opinion, there were the most massive offensives in our direction since the beginning of the large-scale war. This morning, they did not use any military equipment. Many groups of 20 to 30 people are brought to the front line and then they land and try to storm in many directions, 10 to 12 directions simultaneously. This is all with the air support, of course. The numbers are different. Today, one of my deputies counted more than 23 missiles that flew into the territory of the community. I personally saw many missiles. Unfortunately, there are hits in multi-story buildings. There are people under the rubble. I saw on all of these drone footage, these reports being confirmed. I visually confirmed that Russians are using huge armored convoys, infantry on top by the hundreds. I'm not kidding you. The infantry disembarks under fire in the gray zone. They're immediately pinned down. They cannot really move anywhere. The armor is slowly being shot to pieces. It takes time, maybe an hour or two. But then the infantry lives longer. They're in the holes, in the ditches. They cannot move front or back. And in about 1 to 2 days, they will meet their maker, knocked out cold. This is a massive battle. But this map is in the description below, and if you click on any one of these small dots, you see the locations of the battle and their sources, so you can check out everything yourself. The second Russian convoy was coming from the north of Adiivka, from Krasnokharivka. Of course, they were trying to connect, but there was this one small problem, namely the 116th Ukrainian Territorial Defense Brigade. And from them today we got drone footage that, again, I have to apologize, I cannot show you. But on this footage, there was a convoy and leading it was a Russian T-72 tank. The crew was, of course, inside driving, and on top of the tank, there was a whole Russian squad. Of course, they drive on top of the tanks, they get around faster, and their goal was to disembark right very close to Ukrainian positions, hop into the trenches, clear the trenches. But there was one small issue, namely the 116th Brigade Stugna missile that hit them, knocking them all out cold. These are only the more colorful battles that I described. There are countless more confirmed knocking out cold, which I cannot show. Feel free, and I encourage you to do it, to check it all out on yourself. Another drone footage that I analyzed was a convoy about 10 armored vehicles approaching 116th Territorial Defense Brigade from the north of Adiivka. They were pinned down under fire, under Ukrainian artillery. All of the infantry, which I counted close to 100 men, disembarked from the vehicles and established protection on two sides of the convoy. Then some Ukrainian anti-tank mines exploded, leaving these very small craters on the ground, and since they were under fire and most of the armor was getting annihilated, these 100 troops started to find these very little holes and pushing themselves into very small packets of humans into these holes, pinned down by machine gun fire, Stugna fire, anti-armor, artillery fire, and what more. They couldn't move, they're stuck in no man's land, and by the time I'm making this video, they're in the gray zone. Not being able to advance, not being able to pull back, well, because the Russians don't allow to pull back, and secondly, as soon as they get out of these small holes, Ukrainian snipers are hitting them. The situation is very dire for them. Now, these are the Russian losses, but of course I have seen confirmed losses via drone footage of Ukrainian armored vehicles, Ukrainian infantry. Both sides are taking heavy losses in this battle. It is not a one-sided battle, although it might seem like it if I'm talking about it here. But my friends, look at this. 12th of October, Russian knocked out cold personnel, 990. This is an insanely high number, and of course it makes sense because this attack, I've never seen anything like it. I saw something like it at the first month or two of this war, when we saw the convoy of doom approaching Kiev. This is what it reminded me of. 42 tanks. With 2 days, Russians have lost over 100 tanks and over 125 armored personnel vehicles. That's 2 separate days. This time it's 44 armored personnel vehicles, 32 artillery systems, 25 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 1 special equipment. Insanely high losses because insanely big battles are commencing. And perhaps in this video it might explain the Russian losses. No, I'm just kidding actually. Most of the losses come from the battle. But in this video we can see Russian troops charging their MLRS grad system by hitting it with an ammunition box, forcing the munitions inside. Because you see, Ivan, if your munition is too big for grad hole, you force it inside with your strength. This is how we do things in Russia. With enough force, you can fit grad munition into any weapon. You have to push it hard enough. My friends, yesterday something historical happened. But it's not what you I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do it's not what you think thing. The ruble crashed to the lowest of 1 year and a half, the very lowest point, 102 rubles per $1 and 108 rubles per €1. And how did the Russian Kremlin's press secretary react to it? Dmitry Peskov urged Russians not to pay attention to the growth of the dollar or euro or the falling of the ruble and to get used to living in the ruble zone. So it's like, don't mind that others are doing better. Don't mind that we are doing horrible. Get used to it. Walk it off. That's the official Kremlin recommendation to its people. To illustrate the weakening of the ruble, I don't have to explain anything. I will let the man, the myth, the legend do it himself. Here is Vladimir Putin explaining how money works in Russia. The value of the ruble has fallen. It's slightly depreciated by 30%. So a slight depreciation by the eyes of the Putin, who doesn't understand, I guess, much about economy, is 30%. I mean, this is a huge catastrophe in the West, but in Russia, it's a slight change, yeah? Don't mind it. We used to sell goods that cost $1 and received 32 rubles for it. 32 rubles, wow, what happens next? We sold the goods and the money came in rubles, 32 rubles. He's explaining it like he would explain it to a child, using his hands like, you know, $1, 32 rubles. How much do we have if we have inflation and war? And now we have sold goods for $1 and received 45. Budget revenues have increased, not decreased. So, Putin is explaining that if you get more rubles per $1, this means you get more money, revenue increase. You see, Ivan, it is all about number. If $1 equal more number of rubles, you are more rich. Kapish, blядь? Молодец. This is how it works in Russia. So who needs analysts and who needs to understand inflation if you just get more for less? Yesterday I reported about the explosion of the pipeline that connects Finland and Estonia. It's a gas pipeline and there's also a communications line connected to it, underwater cable. Both of them were damaged. Today, Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo stated that this damage could not have been an accident. It was too big for an accident, so it was man-made. But who made it? Also, now there is evidence that the Russian surface vessel Sibiryakov was lingering in the area of the pipeline for a lengthened period of time throughout the summer. And now there is a hole in the pipeline. Coincidence? I don't think so. This pipeline is part of the Northern European and the Baltic states' energy security infrastructure. It is very vitally important, and who would win from blowing that up? Russia definitely would win. Because without the gas flowing Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, from that direction, the gas would have to flow on the eastern direction. Estonia's energy independence, if you can even use that word, because we're not energy independent in any way, is very much connected to these pipelines that are flowing north to south towards the European Union. Take these out and we're never going to buy Russian gas again, but we need it, but we're not going to do it. So in my eyes, I would point fingers on Russia, but of course we don't have evidence yet. It's just a hunch that I have. My friends, on October 5th, Russia attacked a Ukrainian village called Hroza. And that attack was the deadliest one single attack in this war. This village had about 200 people in it. The population was 200 and about half of them were gathered in a cafe for a funeral service of a reburying of a Ukrainian soldier. Now this Iskander landed on the cafe, leveling the cafe, and the casualty rate is 53. There's a huge investigation about it, how it happened. And now we have information that this was not an accident by the Russians. It was a deliberate targeting of this funeral service. What's the story? Two people are behind it who switched to the Russian side when Kharkiv area was under Russian occupation. Later, where Ukrainians liberated the area, these two people fled with their families into Russia. Names of these guys are Vladimir Maman and Dmitro Maman. In Russia, they continued to talk, of course, in secrecy. Nobody in Ukraine knew that they were, agents or they switched sides. They continued to talk with the Ukrainians in the village, and they formed a spy network. They formed an information network that the Russians used for their missile coordinates. And in casual conversation, these two guys found out that in the village of Hroza, there is going to be this burial ceremony where most of the villagers are in one place. They immediately fed these coordinates to the Russian missile crews who targeted Iskander missile into the location. It was a deliberate, thought-through attack. The two guys knew what they were doing. The Iskander crew operator who pushed the button knew what he was doing. There is no accidents here. Ukrainian military intelligence reported yesterday that their Svoboda Rossiya and the Russian volunteer legions fighting under the armed forces of Ukraine have not been seen online very much anymore. But the reports state that these two units are always probing the Russian border, trying to infiltrate. But unfortunately, Russians have manned their border with Ukraine a lot better, and the defensive structures have been built out more. So it's much more difficult for Svoboda Rossiya, the Russian volunteer corps, to infiltrate through the border, making chaos on the Russian side. But the thing is, that is the goal. See, the Svoboda Rossiya Legion never occupies any kind of area in Russia long term. Their goal was to make chaos and pull back, so the Russians would have to react and send troops to man the border. Now the Russians have done it, meaning they have commenced thousands of troops to secure the border with Ukraine, meaning these troops are not in Ukraine, not in eastern or southern Ukraine fighting on the front. And if Russia wants more reinforcements, they cannot take these troops away from the Ukrainian border to send them to fight to the front, because otherwise Svoboda Rossiya would immediately be in Russia making trouble again. So Svoboda Rossiya's Russian civil war has been very successful, forcing Russia to deploy a huge amount of reserves just to fortify a border. And of course, we will end this video with a clown. And since Prigo is no more, we have the next best thing, Mr. Potato Head Lukashenko examining a Belarusian underground bunker. It's newly built, it's modernized, it's golden and it shines, and we're gonna see what's it really about. And it's not what you think. Okay, I'm not gonna say it, but it's really not what you think. 38 beds that accommodate the reserve personnel. You buried a carriage down here? So Lukashenko asks, did you bury a carriage? And by a carriage, it means this is an entire train cart, a Soviet train cart buried underground. The hole was made, the train cart was put there, and then the hole was filled up and there was one entrance. So it's not a bunker, it's a Soviet train cart under the dirt. And that is the new modernized Belarusian bunker, a carriage. That's not bad either. Here they are ventilation systems, supply exhaust. It's all completely self-contained. Here is the medical post. I gotta say though, it's very resourceful because these old Soviet train cars are in abundance and you cannot really drive them because they require too much maintenance now. But you can put them underground like that, and if you put enough dirt on top, I mean, if you build the ventilation and toilets, I cannot say anything against it. It's just a funny idea. Here, Comrade President, there is also methodical literature, which is necessary for the training of personnel. See, knowing how Lukashenko chooses people to the high positions of the army and police, like this is official information I got. Freedom fighter in Ukraine told me in a bar how Lukashenko likes to take people into the police force. He forces everybody to make an IQ test and some other psychological test. And the goal of this test is not to see how intelligent is the guy. It is the opposite. If the soldier scores high, over some threshold high, they're not going to accept him. In the Lukashenko's police force and in Omoin, you know, the people wearing all black and beating people who demonstrate with sticks, riot police, which are like Lukashenko's private army in the police, they need to be lower IQ, and Lukashenko makes sure they are. This way they cannot analyze information and they will be loyal. It is insane. So here, Comrade President, there is also methodical literature. Not going to be needed. Lukashenko is going to destroy these books because he don't like smart people under his rule. There are places for ammunition so that it is possible to replenish the combat kits of those units that are fighting there at the front. And the most important place here is of course the place of the company commander. This is the unmanned aerial system operator who is controlling targeting at the request of the company commander. The control station itself. He's operating the UAV right now. He's operating that flies. Lukashenko is like, he's operating a UAV. He's able, it flies? My God, is this where we are? UAVs can fly? Is this a drone? I've been seeing about it in sci-fi. Look, the guy lives in disconnection from reality and modernization. He doesn't really... He's not really connected at all. He spends most of his time relaxing in his private resorts and partying with his friends. He doesn't really know that UAVs can fly now. The control station is above. All the communications are brought down here to him from this laptop he's operating. And Lukashenko's mind is like, 21st century, baby, yeah. My friends, recently I made a video about the situation in Israel. Now, YouTube didn't like it, it took it down, I cannot upload it again, and I'm not gonna do it with this video, but now I have an idea, seeing how Jake Bro did it actually. I'm going to upload every next video that has a problem with YouTube to my Twitter account. So, you know, many of you commented, where's the Israel video? Sorry, my friends, it's gone. But if it happens again in the future, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to post the whole video to my Twitter, which the link is in the description below. So if you want to be free of any kind of censorship, most videos are on YouTube, and the videos that YouTube doesn't like are in my Twitter account. Go and follow. Same thing applies to my Instagram, both links in the description below. And now, my friends, we're gonna do the Patreons, the people who have been supporting me in my toughest of times, and I wanna put your 5 new names. We have Jeffrey Stromer, we have Kenneth Wilhelmsson, Tom Sparks, Francis Kmit, Steve Jott Korman. Thank you to these 5 people, and if you like my channel, Patreon link is in the description below. Until my next update, my friends, which will be tomorrow, Slava Ukraini, and bye bye.